Hello there, App Spy viewers. My name's Peter, and I've got a hands-on for you. This time it is with The King of Fighters 98. Now, if you've listened to the Pocket Game podcast, or you've been on a stream where we've played a fighting game, or you've seen me on Twitter, or anything like that, then you'll know that I'm fairly big into my fighting games. I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at them anymore. I used to be pretty good, but yes, I really like fighting games, and The King of Fighters is a particular favourite series of mine. I might even put it above Street Fighter as my favourite sort of series. So King of Fighters 98, there's actually loads of different versions of it. As far as I can tell, this is King of Fighters 98 Slugfest, the original arcade version ported, rather than any of the other versions. So we've got Advanced and Extra mode. The Advanced mode will provide you... So... it's really difficult to explain, really, but okay. So I'll tell you what. Let's pick some characters before we start talking about Advanced and Extra. So I'm gonna pick Terry, and I'm gonna pick Kyo, and I'm gonna pick Ryo as well, because I like to go for the classics. Ooh, or shall I go with Yori? There's like 30 odd characters in this game. Oh my. No, okay. Let's go with Ryo. I think we were right the first time. Next competitor will be brilliant. We're going up against Mai. Anyway, let's lead with Ryo, because he's kind of my weakest character, then Kyo, then Terry, my fave. I've knocked the difficulty down somewhat on this one. There are 8 settings of difficulty, just like the SNK version, the sort of AES version, the arcade version. So yeah, I've knocked down the difficulty ever so slightly, because otherwise I would be in some serious bother while trying to talk to you about the game. So I'm not exactly going to put in my best performance either. Oh, I've got performance anxiety. Okay, so I've got these. There's loads of different characters, and they are from different sort of fighting universes that SNK came up with. For example, Ryo is from the Art of Fighting. Whereas Kyo is an original character for the King of Fighters. Terry is from Fatal Fury. Yeah, so the King of Fighters is kind of a best of within SNK. Okay, so each character kind of has lots of different special moves. So you can see that there's projectiles. King has a particularly nasty like double fireball, which is kind of like fairly unique to her, whereas I've only just got one, and it's kind of like short range. But there are also special moves. I tried to get out one of those as well. Let's see if we can get one out now. There we are. Oh, I blocked every single one. Come on now. Fantastic little throw there. As you can see, the backgrounds are pretty cool. They're all 2D. I believe there was another version of this game called Ultimate Match, and Ultimate Match had 3D backgrounds on some versions. So for example, the Taito Type X arcade version had 3D backgrounds. I think the Dreamcast version had 3D backgrounds as well, and that was kind of a remake of this, which is King of Fighters 98. So 98 is kind of special, actually, in so much as King of Fighters 94 was meant to be this best of, and like whether or not it was going to be a one-off or whatever, like who can tell? Probably wasn't going to be a one-off, but it was like a best of all of the series, and it included some new characters. And King of Fighters 98 is a best of the Orochi Saga, which is 94, 95, 96, and 97, I believe, or just 95 to 97. It's kind of a best of those games, and it brings back characters from the dead, it brings back different fighting styles and moves and so forth. So the Orochi team is alive, whereas at the end of King of Fighters 97, they're not alive, but they are here, and they're sort of available for you to choose to play as. There are different teams, teams of 3, which they all have different affinities with one another. Didn't get to play as Kyo too much, so let's bring up Kyo on this one. And different fighters have different affinities with one another, and depending on which of the fighting sort of the modes that you pick to begin with, you'll get different abilities. So, for example, I'm playing with, I believe it's called Advanced. Yeah, there's Advanced and Extra, and Advanced will give you kind of the ability to counter throws, for example, whereas Extra won't. Advanced is definitely seen as the mode to pick, but there's a couple of characters which, if you play as them in Extra, then like you'll have like maybe more special abilities, like you'll be able to like pull out special moves slightly faster, but most people will choose to play in Advantage. It takes a real sort of like high-level player to understand the differences, the fundamental differences between those two modes. But yeah, there are different teams and they have affinities with one another, so for example if one of them gets knocked out, you might end up with more power going into the next round, depending on how much each of those characters likes one another. It is so because it's based on Slugfest, as far as I can tell, it won't have like Ultimate Regal, which I believe is in the Ultimate Match. It has multiplayer, but it doesn't have online multiplayer. It's Bluetooth multiplayer. But as a first on iPhone and iPad, the game supports Bluetooth controllers. So you might hear me clicking away on buttons here. That is because I am playing with a SteelSeries Stratus controller. The controllers, all of them sort of work slightly better and slightly different. Some of them work better than others, essentially, like across all of the games. Would chip damage you to death, mate. This one works fine, except for the D-pad. The D-pad is actually kind of naff. And if you use the D-pad and the buttons at the same time, the controller sort of gets confused ever so slightly and slows down, and that's obviously not what you want. So I've resorted to using an analog stick, which isn't ideal. So it's meant I'm not really bringing out all of the moves that I would like to. I'm kind of relying on jump kicks and defend, like back defend and all that sort of stuff. If I wasn't on, the easiest level of, like one of the easiest levels of difficulty, I would definitely have my butt kicks by now, I would imagine. But the analog stick is it's fine. It's okay. Oh, little taunt there. And we'll bring that out. There we are. Getting a rush move. 15 hits. Take that. You can't tag in or out different characters or anything like that. Little run there. But they can come to your aid if they are of a particular affinity to you. So if you're close to them and you get dizzy, then they might rush to your assistance. But other characters can also not like you. So like you might go into the next round not exactly doing fantastic. Rio is calling somebody a Dweebenheimer, which is my new favourite word ever. Dweebenheimer. Amazing. This is, I believe, the Convict team, except for Kim is in the Convict team. I have no idea why Kim is in the Convict team. Kim is, I thought, part of Korea team. Oh well. So here we are. This is kind of my favourite character, really. And again, like throughout the series, the teams change and the moves change. So, for example, I can't remember which game it is, but one of the King of Fighters, Terry is given a sort of diving, a diving tackle where he can leap over and like overhead smash characters. He certainly has it in Capcom vs SNK. He doesn't have it here, and there are characters from the series that you might be kind of sorely lacking. So for example, Terry Bogard is absolutely a character that I use all of the time, especially in Fatal Fury, because like he's the character for me in that. But K-Dash is King of Fighters 99, so like he's not in this at all, and he is definitely a main of mine. So so feels really responsive to play. There are also touch controls. I detest touch controls for fighting games. I don't think they work, but if you can make them work, then they are perfectly responsive here and are definitely some of the best I've seen. The series kind of do. And but yeah, they're definitely not for me. You flipping. But yeah, so they're not for me, but they do work perfectly fine. The music's fantastic, the voice acting is brilliant, the sound effects are wonderful, the animation is exquisite. This is a game from '98. It's coming up on nearly 20 years now, and it's still absolutely phenomenal. and I think this is a really balanced game. You know, it's like each character has their pluses and their minuses. There's like no reason to not play as any of them, and you will get to love and learn, you know, lots of different characters in this. The training mode is kind of standard, your standard like, hey, you've played this game before training mode, where it doesn't really train you to play the game particularly effectively, so that's a bit of a disappointment. But if you are a fan of the game, or a fan of fighting games, then I would heartily recommend this from this hands-on preview. Like I say, it's not a review or anything like that, but it's a lengthy hands-on with the game, because I'm a big fan, and we wanted to get this out to you as early as possible because the game's just come out globally on iPhone and iPad. Are you a King of Fighters fan? Do let me know in the comments section.
This is Peter with AppSpy.com. We review, you decide.